I want you to meet Shelley Stokstad, a Maranatha volunteer who has actually gone on, is it now 5 projects with your Roseville, California church?
Right.
Shelley, welcome to Maranatha Mission Stories. More than just going on projects, you and your husband, for the last several years, have actually made the donation appeal at the Maranatha Annual Convention. I want to show you just a clip from your appeal from last year, 2007, and just to remind you of what it was like.
I would encourage you to spend quiet time with the Holy Spirit and just ask, what is it that I have? What is it that I have in abundance that I don't need that I can dedicate to this cause? It could be coins. You could simply say, any change that comes through my hand over the next 12 months, I'm giving to the Lord. I'm giving to Maranatha. I'm going to put this challenge before you. If perchance any of you have one of those aha moments while still here today, and you know what you're going to commit to the Lord for this next year, I will meet you out in the foyer and we will swap commitments. I will gladly share, not publicly, but one-on-one, I'll tell you what I'm planning on doing. Is it a date with anyone?
Shelley, that's one of the most interesting offering appeals I think I've ever heard. What made you ask it that way?
Well, Dick, as I think about what Maranatha is all about, obviously we're not just about raising funds through offerings. We're about relationships. We're about relationships with each other. We're about relationships with the third world countries that we go and serve. And we're about relationships with our God. And therefore, the Holy Spirit is always involved in that whole process.
So talk to me just a little bit more about how the Holy Spirit is involved in the need for offerings and income for Maranatha's projects.
Well, we know that where our offerings or where our money goes, there goes our heart. And so when you look at it that way, I started thinking this whole offering giving is about a trust relationship. And when you are challenged with giving, you're actually saying to the Lord, I trust you to continue to supply me with my needs. And not only my needs, Lord, because we're pretty self-centered, but my desires, Lord. Right?
And some of my wants.
And some of my wants,
I even want some of this. It's okay.
You bet. And so we knew that when we started talking about this year's convention, and you know that we went for just a huge, huge sum this year.
Well, yeah, you said you wanted $25 million this year.
$25 million. I think this is probably one of the largest offering appeals in probably Adventist history. And we knew that this couldn't be something clever, a campaign that we came up with or anything else. The bottom line was, or is, present tense, because we're still seeking that $25 million, is the fact that people are in relationship with their God and that the Holy Spirit is influencing them.
You told me a story about how you challenged a group of children to think about offerings and think about money the way you've just been talking. Tell me that again.
Okay, well, I teach the early teen / junior high Sabbath school class at Roseville, and we're a small group. And the kids come and they tell me about what they do. We have this little gratitude moment at the beginning of Sabbath school where, what has the Lord done for you today? And so many of the times it's very difficult for them to come up with what they're grateful for. And that stirred me, that bothered me a lot. And so then I started just throwing out little hooks to them. What about this? What about that? And I found that pretty soon we didn't realize how privileged we were. And so then I started bringing them stories, Maranatha stories, stories from other organizations. And I knew that their heart, once again, was not going to be in the game until they started donating something to it, either their time or their resources. And so I gave each one of them 50 cents, 2 quarters. And I said, you can go spend it on anything you want, but the deal is next Sabbath you come back and you tell me precisely what you spent it on. And a couple of them came back and said, you know what, I couldn't find anything to spend 50 cents on. I said, not even 50 cents? A couple of the kids came back. One of them told me that at their Adventist school they could buy a cup of hot chocolate for 25 cents. And so that was exciting. So they bought 2. Another one told me that she was at the grocery store with her mom, so she dropped it in one of those little gumball machines, and she had gotten something plastic in it, had broken, and it was already gone just a few days later. So 50 cents in coins was just not a big deal.
No.
So I said, what if we could take half of that amount, one 25-cent coin, and feed an elderly person in Russia a hot meal every single day. So we're significantly contributing towards their survival.
So you have taken that gumball machine, 25 cents, and given it a whole different value.
They tell me that they don't spend their pocket change like they used to since we've done this.
Oh, is that right? Mm-hmm. Now, did you then start collecting some of these?
We did. Every Sabbath for 90 days. They brought in their quarters, and I would match it. At the end of the 90 days, we took that amount and took it to our adult Sabbath school at Roseville and challenged them to match what we had already raised, and we did it.
And in 90 days, how much did you actually send to Russia to provide meals for seniors?
I believe it was $686.
Wow.
A lot of
that
meals.
Means that you've got 2,400 meals out of all of that.
Out of
from
children's
quarters.
Pocket change.
So how do we translate that to what can be done with Maranatha and our need for $25 million?
Well, I think that if any one person looks at the whole amount, it's pretty discouraging to them.
Yeah.
We get overwhelmed. We think, I don't have millions of dollars to throw here and there. But if we break it down and everyone does their part, not only are we all contributing and we have a larger base, but everyone gets to experience that trust relationship with the Holy Spirit.
Did people come to you after the service with ideas?
They did. They did. As a matter of fact, as I was standing in front and I looked to my left, I saw a middle-aged couple that were talking to each other and almost bouncing out of their seats. And I thought, there's a story. And so after convention had wound down, sure enough, they were the first ones to beeline right towards me. And I said, I know you've got a story. And they said, oh, yeah, yeah. So they jumped into this very animated tales, plural, of what the Lord has done for them in their geographic spot. They are in a very small rural town. I believe it's in Georgia. There aren't very many Adventists there. He is a dentist, and she assists him in all of his endeavors, whether it's in the office taking care of the books, at home, whatever. And they have built a community center there. They serve hot meals. People come in. As a matter of fact, when the governor comes through their area, he comes and has a hot meal because he's so impressed with what they're doing there. And so after listening to this, obviously these are people who are deeply committed, to the Lord and the Lord's ways and purposes. And so I said to them, I saw you. So what came to mind? What did you have in store to tell me? What is your commitment for this next year? And they said, well, because we live in such a rural area, and because a good percentage of the population is supported by, their health needs are supported by the state, we don't have very many private pay patients. And so we've already talked, and we are committing every single one of our new private pay patients to the Lord this year.
Wow.
I can hardly wait to see them.
It'll be overwhelming. Now, I know, and we only have less than a minute left, but I know you have a dozen stories like that.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell the people who are listening? How do you want to keep that challenge going?
Well, the challenge wasn't just for the people at the convention. The challenge is for all of our viewing audience, anyone who has a heart for Maranatha and Maranatha's purposes. And I do believe that we all have something very unique in our hand. We have time, energy, and resources. What is it that the Holy Spirit is asking you to give?
And that is the opportunity that can transform the world. Shelley, thank you so much for coming today and for giving that challenge. May it bear much fruit. In fact, let me be really specific about it for a moment. Join us. It's $25 million. That makes it possible to build 1,000 churches in Mozambique, 500 in India, plus 3 giant campuses of 1,000 students, and more and more and more, including 80 churches in Chile. You can be part of that. As the Holy Spirit leads you, there is some creative way you can take what's in your hand already and make it grow through God's power. Join us on that. I'm Dick Dirksen, host of Maranatha Mission Stories. If you'd like to join us on a project or make a donation, please come to maranatha.org. We'd love to hear from you.